They caused the worst glitch in MMORPG history, confronting Hacks Unit OSRS. What is the worst glitch? Who is Hacks Unit? Who even knows at this point? But hey, are we ready? 3, 2, 1.
This is Hacks Unit, the group behind some of RuneScape's most iconic glitches. In just a few short years, they discovered and abused hundreds of glitches that allowed them to get level 3 fire capes, unlimited prayer, duplicate billions of gold, and even steal Jagex moderator powers. This is the story of their rise, fall, and where they are today. Now, this is a video I've wanted to make for years. But as you can guess, assembling the Avengers of RuneScape glitching isn't easy. But after some searching and messaging, I found Roy, one of the group's founders. Roy started playing back in 2005 and was instantly hooked. In his own words, he played around 10 hours a day minimum. Roy advanced his account quickly, but it didn't take long for him to wonder what else the game had to offer outside of the more, let's say, traditional content. One day while Roy was chatting in Varrock Square, he received a trade offer from another player. The player showed him an inventory full of bandages from Castle Wars. These are items that can't be taken out of Castle Wars and are exclusive to the minigame, but this player somehow had them. Roy was amazed and wanted to learn how to do this too, but it wasn't until a few years later that he began researching and came across a website called e-sekai. It was a forum devoted to all things RuneScape Underground, like account selling, gold selling, and of course glitching. Normally, I wouldn't say the name of a website where players could use underground services, but e-sekai hasn't been active since people thought the world was going to end because of the Mayan calendar. So I don't think it's coming back anytime soon. Anyway, Roy signed up for an account, but he used his RuneScape account username. Another user named Quint quickly reached out to him saying that he shouldn't have used his real RuneScape name on a site like this because they discuss a ton of rule-breaking stuff. But how would anybody even know that Roy used his RuneScape name in the first place? It turns out that Quint was actually the same guy who showed him the bandages in Varrock Square a few years prior, and he recognized his name. The more Roy browsed e-sekai, the more he got sucked in. But it didn't take long until he flew too close to the sun. A glitch known as the Barbarian Assault Smuggle was posted to the forums, and Roy wanted to try it.
You know? How many times has the apocalypse, like, even predicted? 2012, right? And I thought they tried to predict another apocalypse, but like, I mean, we're alive and it's 2025, so whoever predicted it, you know, kind of took an L. Am I right? So hey, we won.
Barbarian Assault is a minigame that has had hundreds of glitches throughout the years, which makes sense. Most players hate this minigame, so a lot of them were probably just trying to find ways to make it more fun. In this particular case, somebody managed to figure out how to smuggle the free runes and arrows out of BA by using a familiar, but familiars weren't allowed in the minigame, so another glitch was used to sneak them in. So Roy read through the post, recreated the glitch, and smuggled about 500k worth of blood runes out of the minigame, but something felt wrong. He knew what he was doing could get him in trouble, so he dropped the runes out of guilt. Even so, Jagex took things like this very seriously and banned his account soon after. Roy had 99 summoning and was nearly maxed, so he was absolutely crushed. He reached out to Jagex and tried to appeal the ban, but ultimately it was never lifted. So, much like a supervillain origin story, Roy created a new RuneScape account, this time for the purpose of finding bugs and getting revenge on Jagex. Roy actually managed to find a few glitches on his own, like being able to stay in the last pyramid plunder room forever, which allowed him to reach 99 thieving in just a few days, or the A Soul's Bane cutscene effect smuggle. By teleporting right before the cutscene started, it was possible to get the cutscene effect outside, which granted infinite prayer. Since cutscenes pause your prayer, if the game thinks you're still in one, you'll never run out. So Roy took full advantage of it. He created a couple of accounts, repeated the glitch, and set them up with the bandit camp in the desert where they could train their combat pretty much forever, or at least until they got caught. Roy decided that he wanted to share his findings with Quint, the bandage guy from before, and Quint shared with him RuneScape's most broken quest ever, the Slug Menace. This quest had a ton of opportunities for bug abuse, most of which were discovered by Fluid Karma, a well-known player who at the time was considered the king of bug abuse. As for the bugs in the quest, you could flat out walk away from a cutscene, which much like the previous cutscene glitch would give you infinite prayer. Most notably though, though, was the discovery of a paft. Paft stands for Personal Area Forced Teleport. To keep it simple, it allowed you to teleport into any currently open instance in the game. An instance is something like the Fight Caves, Nightmare Zone, or your player-owned house. Jagex was not happy and went to the extreme when banning those who abused the glitch. The accounts that used it were permanently banned, along with every account that had ever logged in on that IP address. So, for example, Roy's friend who introduced him to RuneScape and didn't abuse bugs was banned because he played on Roy's computer before. Years of progress were wiped for doing legitimately nothing wrong. After this, Roy got really serious about bug abuse. He changed his IP, bought a high-level account, and began working with Quint again. Slowly, they shared their tactics with more bug abusers and brought on more people. For example, the previously mentioned Fluid Karma. Pretty soon after, along with 2 other players, Iceforge and Hay, they decided to launch a YouTube channel called Hacks Unit where they would display the exploits they found. Now, I talked about the Slug Menace Paft previously, which most members of Hacks Unit abused, but that wasn't the only Paft in the game. Pafts these days are pretty rare, but back then it seemed like a new one was being found all the time. In fact, Hacks Unit discovered one of the most notorious Pafts in the game just 5 minutes after it was introduced. The Dungeoneering Paft was found right when Dungeoneering released. I won't explain exactly how it was done, but it was considered the easiest and most reliable way to paft, and it wasn't patched for nearly 5 months. You might think that Jagex just didn't know the paft existed, and that's why it took so long to patch. They actually knew about it the entire time and constantly tried to patch it. Hacks Unit just found ways to make it work again. So they just sucked then. Jagex decided to take a different approach with the members of Hacks Unit and bug abusers in general. Rather than ban their accounts every time they abused a glitch, Jagex decided instead to let them bug abuse as much as they wanted and just patch it after. That way they could closely monitor their accounts, find every glitch they abused, and not have to track down their new accounts every few weeks.
Oh, that sounds
Jagex
annoying.
even started offering them rewards in exchange for information, but more on that later. But hey, if you're enjoying the video, why not reward me by pressing the like button? That was a little corny, but I think it works. Anyway, one of the best examples of why paths are really cool is because you're able to sneak multiple people into the fight caves. But it's supposed to be a solo minigame, where after defeating the final boss Jad, the player is rewarded with a fire cape. But what happens when, let's say, 6 people fight Jad at the same time? Who gets the cape? Does everybody get a cape? Hacks Unit decided to give it a try and learned whoever actually deals the final blow to Jad is the one who gets the cape. So they decided to try again, this time with a level 3 account. They got to Jad and had the level 3 deal the final blow with a Dwarven Army Axe, an item that would do a guaranteed 900 damage, which sounds ridiculous, and it is, but converted into old school terms, it does 9. I know, a little less impressive than it sounded, but it worked. Jad fell to the floor, everyone was teleported out, and Hacks Unit had achieved the first ever level 3 fire cape. But if you think that's crazy, we're just getting started. This is the Rotten Potato. It's a Jagex moderator tool that allows people to open their bank from anywhere, spawn in items, change stats, and all sorts of other crazy stuff. These days, Jagex moderators use it all the time on stream and for in-game events. But for years, nobody who played RuneScape even knew this item existed, or if they did, they didn't know the power it held. Not only did Hacks Unit expose its existence, they stole it. The team had discovered a way to paft into the stealing creation minigame. Sort of. They were able to path into the area below the arena, but were unable to do anything. But why break into stealing creation in the first place? There's a mechanic in the minigame where you can pickpocket other players, but you can't bring in any of your own items. But what if somebody pathed it in with something like bunny ears or a fire cape, which are untradeable items? Would another player be able to pickpocket them and essentially trade those items? Well, it seems the team would never know, since they couldn't escape the bottom layer, until Hay came up with an idea. Why not start a stealing creation game and then ask a Jagex moderator to teleport to them? They could say they found a bug and they wanted to report it and test their theory on an unsuspecting JMod.
That's kind of insane,
because Hacks Unit had legitimately started working with them and reporting bugs they found. They were actually able to lure a JMod to them a few times, but ran into a couple problems. Most notably, they attempted it first in the tutorial, but there was no pickpocket option. But eventually, the lure worked and Quint managed to steal multiple items from Mod Crisso, including the untradeable Rotten Potato. But Quint didn't realize what he had stolen until a few minutes later. Since at the time, nobody knew what the Rotten Potato was, it just looked like a piece of junk. But once he clicked on it, he knew he had discovered something great. He clicked around found a few options, tried to open his bank, and spawned in a quest point cape. Oddly enough, he could wear it even though he didn't have every quest done. He dropped the potato to see what would happen, and it despawned. After this, most of Hacks Unit's accounts were banned again and again, but the group didn't give up, and when they posted the clip of the glitch to YouTube, it lit the community on fire. Jagex started to realize that Hacks Unit was a force to be reckoned with, and started issuing strikes to their YouTube channel, but that wasn't enough to make them stop. Over the next few years, Hacks Unit had quite a few notable glitches, and before we get to the biggest one, I'll quickly run through a few of my favorites. First, they snuck the primal dungeoneering armor out of a dungeon. This armor is designed for somebody with level 99 defense and has over 500 defense bonus, but they were able to equip it at just level 1. So, as you could guess, it was pretty broken. You want to know what the first thing they did with it was? They went PKing. I feel like so many people in underground communities are super careful with what they do, but not Hacks Unit. They did a ton of crazy stunts like this. For example, they also discovered how to turn invisible and, of course, went PKing.
I don't know. Okay. RuneScape feels like... Are you liking this video? You are, aren't you? Aren't you? Well, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe. Also, drop a comment down telling me what you want to see next, and maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Who knows? You'll have to keep watching. Don't you? It feels like the entirety of Bleach, where once you defeat one villain, 50 more show up. This is kind of insane. RuneScape is like full of like fucking haters, dude. It's kind of funny.
There was a number of duel arena bugs too, like smuggling the supersets from Stealing Creation out and using them in the arena, even though the no drinks option was checked on. A pretty nostalgic one though has to be when they pafted into the Draenor Bank robbery cutscene. One of the NPCs in it who dies wears a blue party hat, and in the cutscene you could actually right click it and look at the options. I remember as a kid trying anything I could to figure out how to get it, but Hacks Unit actually figured it out. Luckily, Jagex planned ahead this time and made it so the party hat wasn't equipable, and displays this message when you try. My absolute favorite though has to be NPC duplications. They somehow managed to figure out how to duplicate NPCs, so they went into the fight caves and had dozens of these little prayer draining bats on them. It's pretty hilarious to look at. They also managed to figure out how to do it at the corporeal beast and unleashed a ton of cores onto a group of players fighting it. This was all just business as usual for Hacks Unit, but little did they know they were on the verge of their biggest exploit yet. Roy woke up one day in 2012 to a ton of MSN messages. Somebody had been selling massive amounts of GP on an underground gold auction site the last few days, seemingly non-stop. More specifically, over 200 billion every day. Where was he getting all this GP? Well, YB, another bug abuser from a different bug abuse group, looked at his trade history on the gold site and noticed something strange. This whole thing started with a purchase of max cash. For those that don't know, for technological reasons, you can only hold 2.1 billion GP at a time, or more specifically, this number on screen. Anyway, YB told Roy about this, and Roy came up with a theory. This player had discovered how to duplicate GP, but the glitch required max cash to work. So he got a loan from a friend and started testing. This is when he found what is today known as the Crucible money duplication glitch. Jagex had just released a new minigame called the Crucible. Before entering, you'd have to pay an entry fee based on what you brought in with you. But if you left the Crucible as you went in, your fee would be refunded in full. However, Roy discovered that when entering the Crucible, when the game asked you for your bank pin, if you pressed I don't know, the game would think you paid the fee and let you in. So when you left, you'd be given the fee back. But since you didn't pay anything when you entered, you'd basically profit about $500,000 every time. This one was patched fairly quickly, but a new one was discovered soon after. This is where the max cash comes in. RuneScape had just introduced the money pouch a few months prior. It was essentially an extra inventory slot just for money, and the money inside it was safe if you died. So let's say you're at the Crucible, entered it, actually paid the fee, left, and are now trying to reclaim it, but your money pouch is full. Then the coins would go to your inventory. But what if your inventory was full too? The coins would drop to the ground, which should be fine, but because the money pouch was extremely poorly coded, it dropped the coins to the ground and duplicated them. So although you did have to pay the about $500,000 fee when joining the Crucible instead of paying nothing like last time, you'd get $1 million upon leaving. So same profit as the first method. Both glitches were able to generate up to 200 mil GP per hour, but since the second variation was because of a glitch with the money pouch and not the Crucible itself, Hacks Unit figured this method could be repeated in other parts of the game, and if it could, it would explain how the guy from the gold site was able to sell 200 bill a day. That's when they decided to test it at the duel arena.
What the hell?
Accounts could stake each other with one account betting max cash. That account would also have to be the one that wins. And as long as the winner's pouch and inventory were full, in theory, after the duel, the money would drop to the ground and duplicate. Slight problem, the duel arena had code in place to prevent you from accepting a duel if your inventory was full, but the solution was beyond simple. Leave one slot open, and when you enter the duel, unequip an item. When the duel ended, the money should drop to the ground and duplicate. The team got together in a voice call to give it a try, and it worked. Everybody, of course, freaked out immediately, because as a result of this glitch, they could duplicate max cash about twice every single minute. Once Jagex finally figured out what was going on, it was far too late. In total, according to Mod Reach, it's believed at minimum 13 trillion gold was generated using this glitch, but the number is likely much higher, as Jagex's systems couldn't track the whole history. This was, without a doubt, the most damaging glitch in RuneScape history, and Jagex took action accordingly. Not only did they permanently ban those involved with the glitch, they were named and shamed on the front page of the RuneScape website. Jagex didn't end here though. Once Hacks Unit published a video of themselves performing the glitch, another strike was issued to their YouTube channel, and it was permanently terminated. After being banned again and the channel gone, the team slowly disbanded. Some members made a brief return when Old School launched and actually discovered quite a few game-breaking bugs. Maybe you remember the infamous Corporeal Beast invincibility glitch? Quint and the previously mentioned YB discovered and exploited that one. Quint also later went on to help create an HD client for Old School, but that was later shut down by Jagex. But that's really where the story seemed to end, at least publicly. So it's back to the beginning of this video where I reached out to Roy. It turns out he had kept in touch with the members of Hacks Unit and was able to get all of them in a Discord chat with me. What I first wanted to know was why did the group disband? They were still finding a lot of glitches, and as you could see, some were pretty profitable. But they told me that everyone was kind of just getting tired of the game. The Evolution of Combat had just been released, and everyone who was around then knows how many people quit because of it. Now, I mentioned earlier that Jagex offered them rewards in exchange for information. One example Roy gave was that Mod DC vaguely promised them a green moderator crown, sort of like how player moderators have a silver crown, but nobody ever actually received it. In fact, they claimed that every reward Jagex ever promised was never actually given to them. I reached out to a former Jagex moderator who worked in the anti-cheating department who said that wasn't exactly true. One of their rewards was, well, not getting banned. By giving Jagex information, they were allowed to continue operating on their usual accounts, even if that sort of benefited Jagex anyway.
I guess. I suppose, like, but also I would genuinely be like, what the fuck? I wouldn't be happy about it, but I'd be like, okay. What the fuck? Working for free? I know your bonus is you don't get banned, so you can keep working for us. Hey, I guess like they did fall through on like one reward. They didn't get fucking banned, but still, like, this is insane. This is crazy work.
But the JMod went on to say that he even helped them out by teleporting them around the map when needed, and also claims that on a few occasions they were given accounts. Hey did actually get an account unbanned in 2009, but after their later exploits, it was banned again. Speaking of bans, I was curious where all the level 3 Fire Cape accounts went. Roy sold quite a few capes to people. He said he doesn't know for sure what exactly happened to them, but Iceforge had a personal account with a level 3 cape, and he wasn't actually banned for it. The cape was later manually removed, but really that's about it. Funnily enough, the account had a pretty fitting name, Tiz Talk Hacks. These days, there's multiple level 3 fire capes in Old School, and Jagex has not only not removed them, but has celebrated them. Exact and Rendy were the first two players to ever achieve a level 3 fire cape in Old School, and both uploaded highly successful videos about it. In fact, they even won a Golden Gnome Award for it last year. Although they used much different methods than Hacks Unit, multiple bugs were still abused abused in order to get the cape. Up until a few months ago, for entirely unrelated glitches, Rendy was banned. But until then, Jagex didn't seem to care about what bugs were abused. I, of course, wanted to get Hacks Unit's thoughts on all this. Hay said that the game is just very different now. The community is the driving force behind Old School, and they make the decisions, whereas back then, Jagex ran the game and didn't really care what the players thought. The team is more open now to a lot of things that they weren't in the past. Roy also shared a similar outlook and said that social media has changed the game a ton. He thinks people are way more efficient with their time, and I agree. I mean, just think about it. 10 years ago, people weren't prayer flicking, tick eating, or manipulating ticks to get higher XP rates. These are all technically bug abuse, but Jagex not only allows it, but builds content around it. These days though, because of things like social media, I doubt Hacks Unit would get away with most of the exploits that they did back then. Speaking of the exploits they pulled, you might be wondering how much Hacks Unit profited from them. In the glitching community, there seems to be two main ways to profit from glitches. Either selling information on how to do the glitch, or the glitch itself pumps out gold and you real world trade it. Hacks Unit focused primarily on just generating GP through glitches, but profit wasn't their main goal. Roy said that in retrospect, at least for him, the profit wasn't as much as you'd think compared to the potential they had. They were all pretty young, and Roy said that he had yet to understand the value of money in the real world. In fact, things like VPNs or using mule accounts, which could have helped them a ton, also weren't ever really discussed. Remember that 13 trillion GP number from earlier? It equates to millions of US dollars. It's likely the most profitable and game damaging glitch of all time out of really any MMO in the world. So Hacks Unit, if they abused it enough, could have made a killing off of it. They did without a doubt make money though, and it wasn't always just trading gold. Some members used glitches like the infinite prayer exploits, leveled accounts with them, and later sold them. He also ran a service where he allowed one account to transfer any item or amount of gold to another account, but this only worked because the trade limit still existed and you couldn't trade things normally. You'd think with all this know-how, Jagex would actually want to hire these guys, right? They know how to break the game. I found out Roy actually ended up applying for a quality assurance job a few years prior, and they denied him.
That's
Although he
crazy.
was missing some technical requirements, I feel like Jagex could have made it work, especially because Hacks Unit discovered the max cash dupe not long after. Lastly, I wanted to ask if Hacks Unit would ever make a return. RuneScape still has a lot of spaghetti spilled in its code, and I'm sure they could still do well today. But ultimately, the team has decided not to. They enjoy reminiscing on old bugs, but the days of spending all their time on RuneScape looking for them are over. One thing's for sure though, they left their mark on RuneScape's history and will never be forgotten. Speaking of RuneScape history, I actually managed to rediscover Old School RuneScape's lost boss, the most powerful monster in the game.
True though, like, I mean, I think it's kind of a wasted opportunity that RuneScape never hired them because technically they weren't cheating. These are just like glitches in the game, right? They were abusing the spaghetti code, which is a form of cheating, but the fact that they were never hired for like, to do like beta testing is kind of insane to me. Because it feels like these guys would be like the people to go to for like beta testing, am I right? I was like going through it for a second, I was like, wait, huh? I mean, I guess like I guess you can't really trust them, but at the same time, like,